So we're going to try for something a little bit different. This is probably not the kind of article you may have expected, but the story still should be told as it is. So the Maryborough and Donnelly Advertiser reported on Monday, September 7th, 1914, the sack of Louvain. I know a lot of folks are scratching their heads, but just stick with me here. Mr. Will Irwin, American author with 3 American war correspondents, who witnessed the sack of Louvain, stated the destruction and massacres originated by youths firing at the Germans from houses. Every such house was burned down and the occupants slaughtered. The destruction was remorselessly completed. The second day of occupation, street by street, house by house. There were only 2,000 German soldiers, but they were drunk with blood, not liquor. Now, come to find out, obviously, this article is a little bit dated, but come to find out, we actually had, at one point, 15,000 German troops who occupied the town from August 19th to the 22nd. The German First Army made its headquarters in Louvain. The Germans took hostages from municipal administrations, magistrates, and the university, and forced inhabitants to seek their front doors open and windows lit throughout the night. Now, in this case, around 11:30 p.m., German soldiers broke into the university's library. Here we go. August 25th, although they'd encountered no resistance from the population, German troops began a massacre. The massacre likely began with a group of German soldiers panicked by a false report of a major Allied offensive in the area, fired on some fellow German troops. Civilians were shot or bayoneted, homes were set on fire, and some bodies were showed signs of torture. Many of those killed were randomly dumped in ditches and construction trenches. The point of the story is, friendly fire is alleged to have initially started the sack of Louvain in 1914. A lot of folks are like, why is this important? Well, friendly fire is something that happens during war, and it's obviously a very serious concern. What is probably the easiest way to avoid, or at least to cease, friendly fire throughout the course, especially if it's just friendly fire. It's not like they were being, fired on by opposing forces or by civilians. It's just friendly fire. The best way to solve that sort of an issue would probably be through communications. So, communications. We now know, or at least through allegations, that there are some parallels between the sack of Louvain of 1914 in Belgium and the Uvalde school shooting. Senator Chief had no radio during Uvalde school shooting. AP reports the state agency investigating the mass shooting in an elementary school in Uvalde has determined that the commander facing criticism for the slow police response was not even carrying a radio as the massacre unfolded, a Texas state senator said Friday. Senator Roland Gutierrez told the AP in a brief telephone interview that the Texas DPS official told him school district police chief Pete Arredondo, bald guy, trying to intimidate CNN reporters, was without a radio during the May 24th attack by a lone gunman at Robb Elementary School. It left 19 students and 2 teachers dead. 17 more people were injured. Authorities have not said how Arredondo was communicating with other law enforcement officials at the scene, including the more than a dozen officers who were at one point waiting outside the classroom where the gunman was holed up. Arredondo heads the school district's small department, was in charge of the multi-agency response to the shooting. Of course, because their communications were not unlike the Battle of the Somme. My God. He has not directly responded to multiple interview requests from AP since the attack, including a telephone message left with the district police Friday. The apparently missing radio is the latest detail to underscore concerns about how police handled the shooting and why they just didn't confront the gunman faster. Even as anguished parents outside the school urged officers to go inside. The Justice Department has said it will review the law enforcement response. Focus has turned to the chief in recent days after Stephen McGraw, the head of DPS, said that Orlando believed the active shooting had turned into a hostage situation. Where did he get that from? With no communications from the rest of the officers. My God. And that he had made the wrong decision to not order officers to breach the classroom more quickly to confront the gunman. Gutierrez, who represents Uvalde, complained Thursday that Orlando was not informed of panic 911 calls from students trapped in the classroom. Well, how would he? He couldn't get those communications because he was running that joint like friggin' Napoleon. How do those county sheriffs do they have flags? What kind of flags do they carry? I don't know. With battlefield flags? Anybody? No? Small portion of the crowd there? All right. Gutierrez, who represents Uvalde, complained Thursday he was not informed. Oh, we already got that. Police radios are a crucial source of real-time communication during an emergency, and according to experts, often how information from 911 calls are relayed to officers on the ground. It's unclear who at the scene was aware of the calls. Uvalde police did not respond to the questions about the calls on Thursday. Boy, they had all that flak armor, though. They had the armor, they had the helmets out there, they had all kinds of stuff. And you're telling me that not a single one of those officers had a radio be like, oh, here, chief, here you go. It's an emergency. I know you forgot, but you're police chief, you probably shouldn't forget. But even so, here you go. He didn't think to ask anybody? My God. The news emerged amidst tensions between the state and local authorities over how police handled the shooting and communicated what happened to the public. The gunman spent roughly 80 minutes inside the school, and more than an hour passed from the time when officers followed him into the building and when he was killed by law enforcement, according to the official timeline. Slipped through that unlocked door that they also lied about at 11:33 p.m., rapidly fired off more than 100 rounds. Officers entered minutes later, exchanging fire. By 12:03, there were as many as 19 officers in the hallway outside the classroom, standing around, scratching, picking their noses and whatnot. Officers from other agencies urged the school police chief to let them move in because children were in danger, according to two law enforcement officials who spoke on condition of anonymity because they'd not been authorized to discuss the investigation publicly. A U.S. Border Patrol tactical team used the school's employee's key to unlock the classroom door and kill the gunman around 12:50. Since the shooting, law enforcement and state officials have struggled to present an accurate timeline and details of the event and how police responded, sometimes providing conflicting information or withdrawing statements hours later. State police have said some accounts were preliminary and may change as more witnesses are interviewed. Gutierrez said Friday that a Texas Department of Public Safety official told him that the Uvalde area district attorney, Christina Mitchell Busby, that's a lot of words, sorry, had directed the agency to not release more information about the shooting investigation to the senator or to the public. Yeah, no. The hell with you guys. The Department of Public Safety on Friday referred all questions about the shooting investigation to Busby, who has not returned telephone calls or text messages seeking comment. Is back to blue no matter who, even if they're a bunch of friggin' psychopaths, right? Gutierrez said Thursday that many people should shoulder some blame in the Uvalde shooting, including the Texas governor. There was an error at every level, including the legislative level. Greg Abbott has plenty of blame in all of this, which is true, but my God. As I said before, every level of law enforcement that's available to the people of Uvalde is a complete waste of time. But clearly, I mean, this police chief running this operation, running it, they train for this stuff. They spend thousands of dollars of your tax dollars on tactical equipment. They spend thousands of dollars of your tax dollars on other bad cops to train for this shit. And this freaking moron couldn't think to grab a radio off of any of his other officers to keep in communications with everyone there at the scene and with emergency telephone services. My God. I mean, again, just running that operation like he was at the Somme, like very much like the sack of Louvain. some of the weirdest allegations about what happened, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they were true. At this point, I would not be surprised if some of the wildest and craziest accusations that I've seen in social media weren't true regarding this story, because this is just beyond words, folks. Absolutely beyond words. I think at this point it goes beyond resigning. I think this definitely should qualify for criminal negligence and charges should be pressed. That's just one fuzzy guy's opinion. So in the most famous and infamous races, probably in the history of the state of Pennsylvania, voters will have some interesting choices. They can choose to vote for a man who is such a Christian nationalist, he's willing to legislate straight from the pulpit of Jimmy Swaggart, running for governor. And then, of course, they'll have a chance to vote for a man who quite literally tried to die for your sins. Let's take a look. I almost died, Fetterman says, as Senate campaign heats up. Harrisburg AP reports John Fetterman, Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, who's recovering from a stroke, said Friday he almost died from the episode after ignoring warning signs for years and a doctor's advice to take blood thinners. In a statement released by his campaign, he's remained out of public eye, or out of public view as he recovers ahead of the fall general election and what is expected to be one of the nation's premier Senate contests. The stroke I suffered on the 13th of May didn't come out of nowhere, he says. As a result, I almost died. I want to encourage others not to make the same mistake. Turns out he suffers from cardiomyopathy, which that was the first statement made by a doctor regarding his situation. The acknowledgement, yeah, there you go. He's 52. He was in the hospital for 4 days after the stroke. He won the nomination while in the hospital. As we covered, if you follow me on social media on Twitter at Chainsaw CCC, we spoke a little bit about that. The stroke raised questions about Fetterman's fitness. He's already getting attack ads from the other side. As lieutenant governor, he's not said when he'll return to the campaign trail and did not show up to preside over floor sessions. The doctors are recommending that he rest, eat well, exercise, and focus on his recovery. And he says that's exactly what I'm planning on doing. He claims that he previously ignored warning signs, including swollen feet in 2017. And learning that he had a heart condition, the cardiologist, Ramesh Chandra, told him that he never would have had the stroke if he'd continued taking blood thinners. Told him that, the doctor told him he'd be fine if he eats healthy foods, take prescribed medications, and exercises. And, Fetterman says he was open about his push to lose weight in the past. The guy is 6'8". My God. He weighed over 400 pounds, but he lost 150 in 2018 when running for lieutenant governor. Obviously, he was literally running for that seat. Got it, though. He said, I thought wrong. Losing weight and exercising would be enough, but he seemed to have missed out on the medication. They did install or he has a heart condition called atrial fibrillation. If you watch Bonanza on regular cable TV on the channels it's available on, you've probably seen the commercials all about atrial fibrillation. It's kind of marketed to the crowd that does watch Bonanza. So you know all about that. Doctors implanted a pacemaker on May 17th to help manage it. They removed the clot in Fetterman's brain through a thrombectomy. I'm not a doctor. I'll leave it up for you. This thrombo procedure, his campaign said, that means extracting it by inserting a catheter through a big artery, usually in the the headache just came back. Yeah, I'll leave that up. However, Fetterman did not answer questions about why doctors implanted a defibrillator along with it until Friday. Chandler said the defibrillator, which delivers corrective shocks if it senses life-threatening irregular rhythms, was implanted because of his cardiomyopathy. Fetterman has not made public appearance other than a brief couple of videos on social media and speaking from the hospital, leaving it about a week after May 15th. On Wednesday, he saw his neurologist, Campaign spokesperson Joe Cavallo has claimed to have said the neurologist was impressed with his progress and stated cognitively that John is perfect and well on his way to a full recovery. Well, that's good. You know, we certainly wish him the best of health there. And that's some frightening stuff. Meanwhile, the gubernatorial candidate on the other side of the aisle is pushing an interesting hallmark in American fascism. Let's take a look at that. Explainer: can Pennsylvania GOP candidate make voters re-register? Boy, it just looks like a winner, doesn't he? Doug Mastriano, Pennsylvania's Republican candidate for governor, is perhaps the state's most prominent peddler of former President Donald Trump's lie that widespread voter fraud cost him the 2020 election. State senator and retired U.S. Army colonel, Mastriano says he wants to make everyone re-register if they want to vote again. The concept flatly violates federal law, legal scholars say, and may conflict with the state law, not to mention constitutional protections. It's also a throwback to laws designed by white people in the past to keep black people or other newer European immigrants from voting. Mastriano, who was present at the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th insurrection and was endorsed by Trump, is undeterred, discussing his plan for pre-registration both before and after winning the Republican nomination for governor on May 17th. Pennsylvania is one of the few states where governors appoint a Secretary of State who oversees the elections. Great. That means Mastriano's victory in November could make Pennsylvania a premier presidential battleground state, a test case of whether laws meant to protect voters' access to the polls can be undermined. What has Mastriano said? It's unclear where he got the idea, and he not responded to repeated interview requests on this or any other topic, but he pitched to re-registration as a necessary step to scrub voter rolls of dead voters and ghost voters. More projecting, it seems. In gubernatorial primary debate in April, Mastriano said that if elected, he would require voters to re-register. We're going to start all over again. An interview with Newsmax 3 days after the primary election, he suggested that it was a step that his appointed Secretary of State can take without approval by the legislature. You know, we can just do what we want to, despite the Constitution. We might have to reset as far as registration, start the whole process over. There's still a lot of dead on the rolls and what have you, and there's ghost phantom voters that we found, as well as various address. If he's elected, he said he'll be taking steps and other steps to the utmost urgency, so we're going to take that very seriously and move really hard. Basically, we have about a year to get that right before the 2024 election. But is it legal? Scholars who specialize in election law said that they have never heard of a state doing anything similar recently, probably because there are laws designed to prevent it. It's certainly barred by the National Voter Registration Act for at least for federal elections, and likely runs into significant protections under the federal and possibly state constitution and constitutional law, scholars say. No, a state couldn't just unilaterally require everyone to re-register for federal elections, said Ed Foley, law professor at the Ohio State University, who directs the school's election law program. Federal law aside, Pennsylvania law says no registered voter can be required to register again while they live at the same address. But, you know, they do what they want to, clearly. Just a disgusting attempt at a totalitarian governance. I mean, the guy's practically already sworn to overthrow the next presidential election if given the opportunity. Look, I've said it before, and it wasn't my idea, but it's still a great idea. Lawmakers who continue to propose bills that are unconstitutional, or blatantly unconstitutional, rather, and governors who, especially who knowingly sign bills into law that are blatantly unconstitutional, should have some sort of penalty for doing so. Look, folks, they're literally attacking the United States in a way that only Republicans can claim that their opposition is doing. Just my opinion, these guys are terrorists. That's just an opinion, and we'll leave it at that. So, Associated Press, let me see this. Associated Press is coming out with a new biography. Just came out just in time for the commemoration, the 78th anniversary of D-Day. The biography, of course, about Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And so I thought that I would lead into this segment with the man, the myth, the legend himself, and one of my favorite Republican presidents speaking out and almost foreshadowing current events in the United States. So let's take a listen. Without further ado, I present to you President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower, speaking not only about imperialist military operations, but also very, very clearly about firearms manufacturers and lobbies like the NRA. Just shocking. My question is, when did this turn into this?
I was with a 21-round magazine. Here's a 6-hour 320.
Blaming the gun for what's happening in America is small-minded.
I heard Shaquille O'Neal observe that the access to guns is not the problem.
But let's wait on the damn facts. There are a lot of facts that I'm still waiting to reserve judgment on.
Hunter Biden illegally acquired a handgun despite being an admitted drug addict.
I hope the gun is not loaded.
I'm at my house. I can do whatever I want with my guns.
You think we don't have hearts? You arrogant people.
Democrats blame guns. They criticize the NRA. The real beef is with the Second Amendment.
An AR-15 is a gun of choice for killing raccoons before they get to our chickens.
So my local area news seemed to have missed a few things in their coverage of a particular case, and I want to take a look at that and go over it a little bit. Police reveal motive for Memorial Day weekend shooting in downtown Ozark. Matthew Dedman was charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action in a shooting that happened Saturday, May 28, 2022, in downtown Ozark. Dedman is accused of shooting and killing Joe Newbern. Investigators said Dedman shot Newbern because Newbern was allegedly having an affair with his wife. According to the probable cause statement, police were called Saturday afternoon to investigate a shooting in downtown Ozark. Investigators spoke with Dedman and several witnesses who said Dedman drove his truck to 107 West Church Street to talk to his wife. Police said when Dedman arrived at the location, his wife was in a vehicle with the victim, Joe Newbern. Dedman got out of his truck holding a pistol and walked to the side where Newbern was sitting. Police said Dedman intended to confront Newbern because Newbern was having an affair with his wife. Police accused Dedman of shooting Newbern in the chest 3 times, killing him, and then placing the gun back in his truck. Police later found the gun, and that was echoed over here in KOI3, the place to be. Let's see if this is just the video. Police investigate deadly shooting on square. No, this is just the video here. But listen, whenever I first came across this case, there wasn't a lot of information to go off of. And then obviously as more and more details came about, you heard about it. And it was actually a viewer who submitted some interesting information to me. What none of the local stations had actually mentioned was that the shooter was a Baptist preacher at the Heritage Baptist Church. Likely that wasn't mentioned because whomever it is who's handling his and the church's social media has done everything they can to scrub his identity from the internet. His Facebook profile is gone. The church page is completely missing, but what they failed to catch up with was other social media profiles and those of the church that reference him as a pastor there. Why do they feel that they need to hide this information from either the congregation or from anyone else? Your guess is as good as mine. But also local news outlets failed to mention that while the shooter was a white Baptist preacher, the victim was a black man. That also seems like something that people should know in that part of the country. Just saying. Maybe they're trying to hide the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene, they don't want to blow her mind, to be completely fair, right? But, yeah. But then there was another shooting that happened in Ames, Iowa. So you tell me what the problem is.
But what we have right now is a call of a shooting that took place at Cornerstone Church. The investigation at this point reveals that the shooting took place outside. We know that the suspected shooter at this point is a male individual. We also have 2 other deceased individual victims that were shot. We believe they were shot outside in the parking lot as well. We received the 911 call at about 6:51 this evening.
All this week, and I just mentioned Ames, Iowa, because of earlier this week during Memorial Day, I went and picked up a bottle of butter flavored pop, which I did not even know was a thing. And then there was also a shooting in Tulsa, just the other day. Tulsa mass shooting suspect targeted doctor, family, friend shared victim story. Let's pull this up here. See if that's not too big. Oh, maybe. A city in mourning after a mass shooting on the St. Francis campus left 5 people, including the shooter, dead on Wednesday afternoon. Tulsa police have released new details about the timeline of events that unfolded. Tulsa police say the gunman, who officers identified as Michael Lewis, was a patient who was unhappy with the care that he received and returned to the hospital to kill his doctor and anyone who got in his way. According to officers, Lewis went to to see Dr. Preston Phillips about 2 weeks for back surgery. Over the course of several days, police say Lewis called Phillips several times asking for more treatment because he was still in pain. On Sunday, police say Lewis bought a handgun at a pawn shop. According to police, he called the doctor again on Wednesday, reiterating that he was still in pain. From there, police say Lewis purchased a rifle at 2 p.m. and less than 3 hours later, at 4:52, he walked on the second floor of the Natalie building at St. Francis and just began shooting. And this is crazy. This is absolutely insane. Police say Lewis shot and killed 4 people, then shot and killed himself in less than 10 minutes. And again, the doctor was a black man. You tell me what it's like in Oklahoma. I can only speculate at this point. And so Representative Jim Jordan had this to say in opposition to a bill proposed raising the age of purchasing semi-automatic rifles from 18 to 21. Let's take a look.
The bill before us is short-sighted and not solutions-oriented. It's a one-size-fits-all approach that punishes law-abiding citizens while doing nothing to make our community safer. We all want to keep children safe in school, but this bill wouldn't do that. This bill is just another Democrat attack on the Second Amendment, and it's likely just the start. President Biden has said He wants to ban all 9mm handguns. Where does it end? The American people expect and deserve more from us than political charades that rehash old ideas and don't actually solve the underlying problems.
U.S. Congressional Representative Jim Jordan, everybody, from Ohio. Speaking of Ohio, meanwhile, State Rep Reggie Stoltzfus from the Mistake on the Lake, Ohio. Look, I'm kidding. You know, I'm sorry. We still have Jerry Springer, so don't get all sensitive on me, okay? But so Reggie Stoltzfus had this to say about the state itself regarding his solution to gun violence within the state of Ohio.
School shootings have been around for decades. They're not going anywhere. They're here to stay. So we've got two options: hide behind the desks and barricade the door, or arm the teachers, arm the staff. We're not forcing teachers to carry guns, but again, arm the staff. Our kids will be much safer. School shooting.
And meanwhile, in not their district, Ohio, Dayton Daily News reports mother son killed in Walmart shooting. Mother says son killed in Walmart shooting. Just learned he was going to be a father. My God. Adam Black was realizing his dream of becoming a father and husband, and in April had just moved from Hamilton to Hamilton from Columbus. But in the night of May 26th, that dream and his life ended when he was shot and killed by a gunman fleeing after a botched robbery at the Walmart in Fairfield Township. He had just gotten engaged and was planning to be married, and a week before this, he found out that he was going to be a father. It has been horribly devastating, said Shirley Black Dameron, Adam's mother. I was so happy for him because he wanted more than anything to be a father, and he was getting older. His dream came true when he found out his fiancée was pregnant. Black, 35, was shopping for items to furnish his new house when a suspect began running in the Princeton Road store after attempting to steal cell phones in the electronics department, according to police and prosecutors. Dameron said her son was employed by a security company as a security guard at an area plant. He tried to stop the suspect after a store employee was unsuccessful. Suspect pulled out a gun and shot Black in the head. I'm just broken, she says. He worked so hard to get to this point, and when he gets there, his life was just callously taken away. Dameron has no doubt that her son's security training was part of his decision to intervene. Adam truly loved his life, truly loved life. He loved people. He dearly loved his two dogs, Shadow and Midnight. Loved horses and fishing and his family, but he was always willing to help anyone who needed it. He stood up for people, and he, like myself and many others, was sick of how badly our government and criminal justice system had failed our whole country. And now he's become a statistic. It shredded my whole heart. I'm just lost now, she said. Her oldest son lives in Canada. We were all so close. It was his son's nature to help when help is needed, and Dameron said his actions likely saved others' lives. He's a hero, she says. That was his instinct to try to help them, to help Walmart. Anthony Brown, 32, of Hamilton, was arrested a short time after the double shooting that killed Black and injured store employee Eric Ruff, 57, of Fairfield. Brown is held on a $5 million bond and is charged with aggravated murder, aggravated robbery, having weapons under disability, and is waiting this week for either a preliminary hearing or his case to be presented directly to a Butler County grand jury. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges. He's pleaded not guilty? You gotta be freaking kidding me. But yeah, that's Dayton Daily News there for you. You can take a look at that yourself. And then I did see this. Security guard inmates die after shooting at Miami Valley Hospital. Yeah, this is from the neighborhood here. Private security guard died after he was reportedly shot by a Montgomery County jail inmate at Miami Valley Hospital on Wednesday morning. The inmate was being treated in the hospital's emergency department when he took an armed security guard's gun and shot the guard before fatally wounding himself or shooting himself in the parking lot behind the emergency room, said Dayton Police Major Brian Johns. Dayton Police confirmed the security guard died Wednesday afternoon. Officials did not immediately respond or release the identities of the guard nor the inmate. It's a horrific event. Hearing about events like this morning is just unreal. The security guard was a private guard for Merchant Security. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office is contracted with Merchant Security and other local security firms to guard inmates admitted to hospitals for more than 21 years, said Streck. Obviously, guns don't kill people. Come on. I mean, this wasn't even the good guy, bad guy with the gun. This was, the bad guy took the gun that he just so happened to have the opportunity to get his hands on a security officer. I mean, how many more times do we have to see examples of this before the NRA money stops being so freaking sweet? I mean, if these people want to arm teachers, they want to harden schools. You can't even trust the cops, and not to say anything bad about the security guard, but I mean, Jesus Christ, security guard gets his gun stolen from him by an inmate that he's there to secure. The inmate takes his gun because he had the gun to take, and then shoots the guy. I mean, Jesus Christ. What do these trash bags like Jim Jordan and Reggie Stoltzfus need to... What else do they freaking need? I mean, and again, this is Miami Valley Hospital. This is right down the block, from my old neighborhood here. Between two of my old neighborhoods there. And right down the block from my old office there. Off of Xenia. I mean, Jesus Christ. That's two right there in Cincinnati land, just, and I mean, who's shocked, right? Who's shocked at all? Anybody shocked yet? A little closer to the now location here. Investigation launched into a deadly shooting in Mansfield. Authorities are investigating a deadly shooting in Mansfield, Missouri, Wednesday, June 1st. Approximately 10 a.m., 10:22 a.m., deputies were dispatched to a property on State Highway B for possible gunshot wound. When deputies arrived, they discovered a man later identified as Zachary Owens with a gunshot. EMS performed CPR on Zachary, but he was later pronounced dead. According to the PC report, Nick Owens, 57 of Sparta, was identified as the person who shot Zachary. Authorities reviewed video footage from a Ring camera and saw Nick come onto Zachary's property. According to authorities, Nick intended to steal a flatbed trailer from the property. When Nick arrived on the property, Zachary was unloading the trailer, and Nick confronted Zachary. The men got into an altercation, which led to Nick shooting Zachary in the chest. Nick has been charged with first-degree murder and armed criminal action. According to the Wright County Sheriff's Office, Owens was transported to the Wright County Jail and is being held without bond. Owens will appear on court June 6th for a bond hearing and to schedule a preliminary hearing. For the most part, most of these guys were good guys with guns until the moment they decided to pull that trigger. The white preacher from Ozark who shot a black man because sex is equivalent to murder was a good guy with a gun until he pulled the fucking trigger. So get out of here with this trash. And lastly, here's what's shaking down in Rhode Island.
For people who have argued, well, if we just had more guns, armed teachers, armed principals. For people who have argued, well, if we just had more guns, armed teachers, armed principals, that would be the solution. If that were actually true, we would live in the safest country in the world because there are more guns in America than anywhere else in the developed world. There are more guns in America than people. So we've tried that strategy. It doesn't keep people safe, which is why we enacted the bill we did yesterday, and I expect that the House will pass it when we return. For people who have
100% correct. 100% correct. And that was Representative David Cicilline, Democrat from Rhode Island. If more guns were the answer, you bunch of dipshits, none of these cases would have happened. There would have been a good guy with a gun to stop the bad guys that had guns. there would have been someone. If the good guy with the gun could have stopped the bad guys with the gun, I wouldn't have been able to discuss what happened in Uvalde. All those good guys with guns, the one good guy who was in charge of them didn't have a radio. So, you know, we need more guns. We need more armed security in schools. We got to harden schools. Maybe what schools need are radios. Maybe that's just it. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe instead of you know, these bulletproof blankets and whatever for the kids and arming teachers and, you know, retired combat vets stationed at, you know, every door. Maybe we should just give the teachers radios. Actually, that's not a horrible idea, but it's as incredibly stupid and still dancing around the idea of the real problem here is that there are so many firearms in this country, and gun culture itself is really the problem. The pro-gun people, the pro-gun push, the pro-gun... Every time you see I won't even mention the party because it doesn't matter. Every time you see somebody running an election campaign, you know, with governors or they're trying to, you know, run for state rep or state Congress, U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, and they're out there, you know, shooting guns and shooting the competition and this, that, and the other thing. Just the whole idea. You guys remember that campaign ad that Sarah Palin ran with targets on seats? You know, only supposed to be targeting seats, which had literal crosshairs on those seats needed for the election campaign, for the election general election there. And what was it? Just within a short time after that ad was released, and that message was endorsed by Sarah Palin, Gabby Giffords ended up taking one to the temple. But, you know, we can all be like Jim Jordan and just ignore that shit and act like that has nothing to do with it. Sick. It's absolutely sick. But listen, that's all I got for you here. If you like this kind of content, obviously you want to like and subscribe. Tap the notification icon because I know a lot of folks aren't getting these. I basically have to spam this stuff out on Facebook and Twitter just to get noticed here. Look, if you follow me on Twitter, subscribe to the channel. I need you. I need you. I need your help over here to get the message out to the people. Share my videos, you idiots. I love you, though, and it's going to tell you as such in the message at the end. Listen, have a safe, my God, have a safe weekend. And, yeah, we'll see you on Monday.